So, have you ever wondered why your hair is blonde, even though your mom and dad both have brown hair? Maybe you've always wondered why your sibling grew up with poor eyesight, but yours is nearly perfect. Within our cells lies the answer to questions such as these and more. Within our cells, you can find a molecule called DNA. DNA, otherwise known as deoxyribonucleic acid, is found in living organisms like humans, plants, and bacteria, just to name a few. DNA carries all the information that determines what we look like, our habits, and how we taste or see. The list goes on. DNA's appearance looks like a twisted ladder. In DNA, the rungs are complementary base pairs, called nucleotides, joined together by hydrogen bonds in the middle. And the side rails of DNA are made from sugar and phosphate groups. Aside from carrying genetic information, DNA is also responsible for making proteins. So, when talking about DNA's function in protein synthesis, we can think of DNA as the site manager of a construction site called the cell. In this case, the site manager's goal is to ultimately direct the construction of buildings, or proteins in this instance. However, in order to do that, he needs to communicate with his workers, like the ribosomes, for example, so they know their role in this project and how to carry out the plan. In this case, the site manager never leaves his office, otherwise known as the nucleus. So, in order to communicate with those outside of his office, he needs to write a letter by transcribing genes through a process called transcription and send this message to his workers for them to receive as mail called RNA, or ribonucleic acid. mRNA carries this information and brings it to the ribosomes in order to be made into proteins. There are different types of RNA, like mRNA, rRNA, and tRNA. RNA is written using a special alphabet of letters called nucleotides. Combinations of these nucleotides, like codons, let the workers know what it is they exactly have to build. However, not all the cells in our body are the same. DNA helps cells understand what they're supposed to be and how to function. Going back to our analogy, there are many different site managers, each responsible for building different things. Some build restaurants, some build amusement parks, and some build office buildings, just like how our body makes different cells, like skin cells or brain cells. In this case, the human body is like a city of different types of cells. We all know that cities are made up of more than just schools or shops. DNA helps differentiate the types of cells within our body so we can function properly and thrive, just like a city. DNA doesn't only help in the process of making proteins, but it plays a huge role in passing genetic information down to you from your parents in a process called inheritance. Inheritance explains why you look similar to your parents and siblings, but you might have your grandmother's detached earlobes or your mother's asthma. Sometimes, the site managers from our analogy mess up, and it results in mutation. This would explain why certain diseases run in families like cystic fibrosis or Alzheimer's. The DNA in a person is a combination of DNA from each of their parents. So it wasn't until the 1950s, when the concept of DNA had been explored further by the scientific community. Prior to this, a Swiss chemist had been the first scientist to be credited with the concept of DNA. However, it was through the work of James Watson and Francis Crick, in collaboration with Rosalind Franklin, that DNA research was able to reveal the structure of a DNA molecule. Watson and Crick studied the image of the DNA that Franklin provided them, all made possible by a process called X-ray crystallography. Observing the structure of DNA gave insight into the molecule shape and ultimately how it relates to its function and how it replicates. So let's start by describing the structure of a DNA molecule. If we look at DNA has a coiled spiral appearance, which proves to be very advantageous for many reasons. By being coiled, DNA is compact, which means a single DNA molecule is able to store a lot of information in a small amount of space. The shape of DNA also gives insight into how it replicates. DNA is double-stranded with complementary base pairings. Between each of these base pairings are hydrogen bonds that can be broken, which open the helix and allow each strand to serve as a template to produce new strands of DNA. After the discovery of DNA, scientists Matt Meselson and Franklin Stahl had actually proven Watson and Crick's claim that DNA replication is a semi-conservative process. This semi-conservative process means that one DNA molecule can create two synthesized molecules, each consisting of one original strand and one new strand. So we've reached the end of my video. Thanks for tuning in, and look forward to listening to your videos.